You go to the grocery store and buy ground beef, you know that you could get up to 40 different cattle in one package of ground beef.
Holy fuck. I never knew that. Yeah. I thought the cow that you get from the store, the ground beef at least, is from the same fucking cow.
No.
And it's not even close to that.
These slaughterhouses are sometimes packing out 2,000 head a day. That all goes into one big grinder. So you may have Joe Smiths that he raised with the finest quality of everything, and you may have Jim Brown who brought you all his cutter cows that he just needed gone, you know, and you get mixed with all that. You have no idea. Now they have country of origin issues. So we're bringing in beef from Argentina, all these other countries. It could have literally spent zero time here alive. Yeah. They can raise it, slaughter it in another country, and they ship it over in refrigerated cargo containers, and we just package it, and it's now a product of the USA. And you and I thought we were buying
U.S.A. beef.
Would you argue that that could be better, though, because we use more pesticides in most countries?
What holds bar? And how do you know if you think it's USA, but you don't know country of origin?
Yeah, I think it's more about transparency. Welcome to episode 46 of Raw U Podcast. We are here today with Josh Baker, who is also the owner of Diamond Bee Livestock.
Yep, Diamond Bee Livestock.
Yeah, you keep calling it Diamond Bee Ranch.
No, we're trying to figure something out here, okay? The Instagram names are taken. So. All right. So this podcast kind of comes as like a cool kind of like little bit of a surprise because I've been friends with Josh now on Instagram for quite some time. We've always shot the shit back and forth, and I just really love what he's doing. I think that we're all in a place now where, you know, it's kind of becoming more important to find out like where the food you're eating comes from and why it's important to pay attention to those things. And I thought you guys would really enjoy listening to him and, you know, why he does what he does and how he started and kind of everything that went behind this and this whole project.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor to be in a room with two guys who have accomplished so much. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, everyone who knows me too knows like my wife is like, she started all this for me. When back in like 2016 she got sick and she started to realize probably from food and the way she was eating, but she was also like a competitor. And you just, as bodybuilders, you don't eat to be healthy. You just kind of eat
to just feed the machine.
Yeah, and then you're also eating a lot of meat, so you might eat really shitty quality meat because it's expensive, and you're kind of going through that. And she's the one now who's like anal about everything. She's like learning about all the new ways and new things, and we're all figuring out there's so much bullshit now that goes out into this meat industry of people like a marketing schemes. And I think the first one I ever found out was McDonald's in Canada. They used to say they have 100% beef because they owned a company that was called 100% beef, and it was actually like 50% beef, but that was the name of the company. Yep. And that was just like a small thing that they got in trouble for, but a small example of how many lies there are out there about the kind of meat we eat. So
there's that, and there's a lot of greenwashing now. So because people have started to pay attention, well, now, you know, bigger corporations are jumping on the, oh, well, this is grass-fed. Well, every cow in the United States is grass-fed at one point in time or another. They all have to start on grass. There's no other way. When a calf's born, it eats grass, or it's, you know, it's nursing off its mother and it starts on grass. There's just no two ways about it. But they can kind of use those greenwash terms and confuse the person that might be doing some research and, okay, I'm buying grass-fed beef now. Well, it's not grass-fed, grass-finished, or, you know, and there's so much, and that's kind of where this whole thing got kind of kicked off. So I'm a professional firefighter by, you know, career, and through the last 3 years, we know there's been a lot of bullshit going on, and I got to see exactly through all of the lies and everything else because it was boots on the ground, and something wasn't making sense, and we started to really, my wife and I really started to kind of, you know, hey, wait, what's going on? Like, we're not buying into a lot of this stuff. What's happening? And over the years of being a fireman as well, you see the results of where America's gone. We're fat, we're lazy, where everybody has 13, 15, 18 different meds. You know, you have kids that are constantly sick, and I don't even remember that from when I was a kid, and I'm not that old.
I mean, I agree. Even from when I was a kid till now, it's so different.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember going to school and having waivers and stuff of you can't bring this food in because of all these peanut allergies or all this or all that, and it's like something's changed, something's different. So we initially started, we moved out of where we were, we bought land, and it literally started with like 7 chickens. We just thought, okay, well, we're going to have chickens and get our own eggs. Well, then the massive egg shortage happened, and I happened to be on the up and up and had bought a bunch of layers prior, and we started selling eggs just locally, and it took off. And people wanted to know the family they were buying their food from. They wanted to trace it right back to where it was. and our chickens are let out in the morning, the coop, and they roam the entire farm. There's not a place they can't go. It does get annoying sometimes, but that's the deal. They're free range. They go wherever, they eat whatever, you know, and we had so many people, well, your chicken's organic. And I said, well, they're organic by nature, you know, like what? And you start to ask these people these questions, and you realize that people are just taking a slang term or an industry, you know, term, and then they use it and they think, okay, well, it says organic, I'm good to go. They really don't start to question exactly what goes into that. And that's where I thought, you know what, this is an opportunity to educate people and to really just open the veil of exactly what we do. If I do everything right, I should have no problem whatsoever of allowing anybody on a farm, answering anybody's questions, or, you know, just being totally upfront, because I have nothing to hide. So we went from the chickens to, we decided we were going to do beef and pork, and start a rotation. I took a lot of inspiration from White Oak Pastures that many people have heard from, because Mr. Will Harris has been on Joe Rogan and things like that. And they do they took it right back to how cattle and animals were raised way back when, before we started applying all this science and trying to make things more perfect by putting science to it. And they do a wonderful job of it. And we went up there and I was like, you know, we're going to go full force with this. Mm-hmm. And we're going to start calling people to the table. And so now currently the way we operate is I live on a piece of ground that Large Animal Vet has a Black Angus herd. I buy his calves when they're steered, when they're weaned off and they're steered. I buy them from him because I've watched exactly where they're born, what they've gone through, what they're fed, how they're raised, because I also work for them. I help, you know, fix everything. I help monitor the cows. So I knew exactly where that was coming from. And then we put them on our program. We use, you know, all natural minerals, things like that. And there's going to be a whole bunch of transparency coming out about this. But we have a program that we basically put them on to guarantee they're as clean as we can get them. Mm-hmm. And then we offer them a feed supplement so that they do get the flavor and some fats that you wouldn't get off of a grass-fed, grass-finished beef. There's nothing wrong with it, but it lacks in flavor and taste, and the average American can't make the switch from store beef to grass-fed, grass-finished, because they would be like, well, what happened? Or they cook it too long and it tastes like leather.
What's the while you're on that, like a lot of people right now are like tied to the grass-fed, grass-finished, right? And that's where you kind of figured out a lot of the farms were like full of shit.
Yeah.
Without naming any, like what, I guess you could say, why, besides the fact that it tastes better, like what is the negative of the feed? Like what is
so a lot of people are concerned with GMOs or glyphosates, any kind of trace from herbicides, pesticides that may be sprayed on the crops.
Okay.
Now that's going to be something that's across the country. And in fact, a lot of people will say, well, elk or deer is the most natural. Well, almost all deer, unless you're hunting in very remote Montana, Wyoming, maybe Alaska, they're by crop fields.
100%.
They're eating the corn.
Yeah.
And 90% of these guys hunting them are feeding them corn.
Yeah.
So it's like, I kind of went, well, wait a second. That doesn't even make sense. You know, elk, you get a little better chance, but most of the elk in Montana, you know, in some of these areas, go down to the valleys, and what's in the valleys where all the guys are ranching and growing alfalfa and things like that, and they're spraying it.
Yeah.
So everyone gets this misconception that grass-fed is better than grain-finished. Well, the grain-finished we're talking about is feedlot cattle, where they jam hundreds and hundreds of cattle in a small pen, there's no grass, and they feed them high-density rations of corn, silage, etc. That's all their job is to do, is eat. And we saw this during...
And that's from a baby to
Well, that's from... You'll get them at... So they wean at about 500 pounds, and they normally go to a backgrounder who gets them warmed up on feed, they call it, because you have to actually warm them up. So if you feed too much, their rumen pH throws them off and they'll get bloat. So you have to go to things like ionophores that help eliminate that issue. And it's not an antibiotic, but an ionophore is a foreign entity that you're introducing into the cow, or they put them on hormone implants to help them gain weight quicker.
Sure.
Because obviously the deal at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's money.
Weight, yeah,
you know, you got to have
the bigger
that
the cow, the better.
Head grow as much as possible in the shortest amount of time.
Sure.
So you send it to market with the least amount of inputs. And, you know, so people got stuck on grain finished. Well, that's the grain finished they're talking about. Our cows never once leave a pasture. They're always in a pasture. They're offered free choice grain, but that grain is only weighed out to 10 pounds a head per day. They don't get any more than that. And if they want to eat it, they can eat it. If they decided the grass in the pasture is better, they eat the grass in the pasture. We don't force them.
Sure.
So they're free to come and go and eat if they want, and choose not to if they don't want to. But now I've combined the benefits of both. You get the flavor and taste, But now we're getting all the benefits of being on grass. You're getting the omegas, you're getting the good healthy fats, things of that nature, and you're getting a better quality product. And then we do some other things that help clean the liver out of the cow and make sure that they're super clean so that, yeah, if we do have some feed with some glyphosate residue, and that's nothing I can prevent, unfortunately, unless this entire country decides that they really want to take a step in eliminating that.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to convince guys that have done this. That's a battle I'm fighting right now. A lot of cattlemen are stuck in their ways. Hey, Big Pharma taught us to give these antibiotics and give these shots and give these vaccines, and we don't have to.
And none of your cows have those.
No, it just science got applied too heavily.
Yeah.
We decided that, okay, well, this will make it better, right?
Yeah.
So we keep putting it on. Now guys are finding out, well, if we take that out, it's actually less inputs in. I'm saving money. I may have to do things like clean the waters often, drag fields to spread the manure so that we don't get coccidiosis and some other things that, could be around. But it's hard to convince what has been industry standard and change it. But you're seeing a ton of people start digging, and that's great. Americans should ask questions. You should have no question asking somebody exactly where it come from. And if they hem-haw on the answer, or they want to say, I called out a big operation just for that. I emailed them first and said, hey, your website says this. What are your procedures? And I kind of acted as a consumer and just asked questions that a consumer should ask. And the first response was, what industry are you in? And, why you're asking some very pointed questions like, what industry are you in or what's your background? And my next email was, what does it matter? If I want to buy your beef, what's the matter? What industry I'm in or who I am? Answer the question.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been getting a lot of animal activists or, things like that email. That's why I was asking. It had some tones to it. And I thought, that's the guy I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I'll open a farm up. You want to come? You want to go through the pastures with me? Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's show it all.
Yeah.
And I have nothing to hide. Now, my beef may not be for you. Maybe you want 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, and that's fine. But at least I opened the door and I allowed you to educate yourself.
Sure.
And I think that's let consumers decide. If we as farmers and ranchers across America decided, hey, let's be 100% transparent in everything we do, the consumer will decide. You'll have people that want this, you'll have people that want that, but now everybody's educated.
Yeah.
When you go to the grocery store and buy ground beef, you know that you could get up to 40 different cattle.
Okay, so I watched this video on your
beef.
page yesterday. It was like you were driving in your truck and you said that. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, I never knew that. Yeah. I thought the cow that you get from the store, the ground beef at least, is from the same fucking cow.
No.
And it's not even close to that.
These slaughterhouses are sometimes packing out 2,000 head a day. That all goes into one big grinder. And you're just getting, so you may have Joe Smiths that he raised with the finest quality of everything. And you may have Jim Brown who brought you all his cutter cows that he just needed gone, and you get mixed with all that. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Now they have country of origin issues. So we're bringing in beef from Argentina, all these other countries, as long as it is modified here. And modified means if it's broken down, if it's packaged, if it's cut into a cut, it then can be labeled product of the U.S.A. It doesn't mean that it came from here. It could have literally spent zero time here alive. Yeah. They can raise it, slaughter it in another country, and they ship it over in refrigerated cargo containers, and we just package it, and it's now product of the USA. And you and I thought we were buying
USA beef.
Would you argue that could be better, though, because we use more pesticides in most countries?
But some countries, what holds bar? You know what I mean? And how do you know if you think it's USA, but you don't know country of origin?
Yeah, I think it's more about transparency, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is like it's only a matter of time before these other countries get an idea of America's buying beef at this price. Like how quickly and how what can we do to these cows to get them ready fast enough for them to sell.
I mean, think of all the things we've been attacked on lately and all the stuff that's come across. It's just really shady and weird. I mean, we could get down a whole bunch of rabbit holes, but other countries, there's a target on our back, and if you don't believe that, you're clueless to what's really going on in the world.
Well, how do you feel about this whole like beef is bad movement?
Oh, I love it. I think it cracks me up. If you, over the last 3 years, if you don't realize whatever the government and the big agencies tell you, you should be doing the opposite. If you don't realize that by now, well, there may not be hope for you. But literally, you can look at everything and they say, more drugs, more this, get the jab, do this. If you didn't do the opposite, God help you.
Yeah. But I think it's pretty wild that like Bill Gates owns the most farmland out of any person in the United States.
Why is a tech guy getting involved in our food?
And telling everyone not to eat it.
You know what I mean?
But even within that, like, eat less beef movement, do you think part of it, not the people who are idiots saying it, but do you think there's some validity in the fact that the way the beef is being raised, the cattle's being raised, the feed that they're getting, that it isn't as good as it could be or should be?
Well, I think that there is differences in beef, absolutely.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't think that beef itself, if we just went to the food group, there's no
But do you think maybe now those like the worst of the worst cows coming from anywhere, fed anything in shitty lives, slaughtered full of stress, like all the bullshit, those ones are actually not great for you to eat?
I would say
it's better than a lot of processed.
It's probably better than fucking.
I mean, I would say
Rice
that
Krispie treats.
Yeah, it's better than probably the ground up, cockroaches that we're making, Beyond Beef with, or Beyond Meat or whatever that company was, where they want to take bug proteins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably guessing it's better than that.
Wait, they're allowed to take bug protein, but
oh yeah, this is a new thing now. Bug protein is the new thing where they're grinding up crickets and bugs, and they're creating. I mean, it's been a huge thing.
Cricket protein powder.
Dom's not focused on this. It's just raw, man. Sebum proteins.
No, I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Why? Why do they think cockroach protein or whatever?
Because they think it's more sustainable. Yeah. See, according to the powers that be, cows burping and farting is what's causing this global warming thing.
Well, now humans breathing are too.
Yeah, and if you think about it, what causes plants to grow? They don't grow in the cold, right? So what happens if the world gets warmer? You get more plant life. Yeah. Like, it's not really it's a big just here you go, watch this, we're going to pull one over on you. But
sure.
Yes, I think there's validity to what you're saying. I don't think all beef is created equal, but I dang sure don't want to be eating lab grown meat or bug proteins. I think I'll stick with good old fashioned 4-legged beef.
Yeah, I mean they're literally 3D printing steaks now out of a machine with no cricket, no bug, no, just like chemicals put together.
And that's, I mean, in the beef that you buy in the store, now I'm not trying to knock every rancher out there. There's a lot of great families and a lot of great ranchers that raise commercial beef. Mm-hmm. It's not them. I'm not demonizing what they've done, but there's only 4 major companies that own all of our beef production in the United States.
Yeah.
There's 4. It's called the Big 4. They run all the slaughterhouses. That's where you buy out of the grocery store. That's where you're going to get your beef. The problem is, way back when, we used to buy from a local butcher, a local meat place. We used to go to the rancher and say, okay, we're going to buy this steer, and then went to the local butcher. Butchering has disappeared. I'll bet you couldn't drive around here and find an old school butcher.
Well, I mean, we just had this conversation talking about our plans and how we basically have to go to Georgia until we figure that out, because there's no good butchers. We're real butchers
and
anymore.
It's hard to find. There's no schooling to go to. Or it's a lost art to find somebody that really can break down a cow into retail pieces that's quality, and it's sad. It's sad because that's what it used to be, and now people think, well, okay, I'm just going to go to Costco. I'm going to buy this huge pack of meat. I'll bring it home and I saved all this money. But we've gotten so far into the quick, easy, fast, lazy culture that now we do that. We eat 2 pork chops. We put it in a bag or vac seal it, maybe if we have a vac sealer at home, and then we throw it in the freezer. 7 months later, we find it. The seal popped. It's got freezer burn. We wasted it all. We waste so much meat. It's in food in general. It's insane. We used to get food from a food bank that we would feed to some of the chickens. Believe it or not, chickens love meat, so we would feed them meat. They're a protein animal. They need meat. But a lot of things, we would get so much, and I would just look at it, and I was like, this is incredible. This is why people don't want to – they think they're saving money. They're not. And the Big 4 drives the price down to ranchers so you don't get anything. This is why direct-to-consumer is so important. Instead of you buying that giant pack, what if you just bought meat for the next 2 weeks and you ate all of it? And you didn't waste any of it.
Yeah.
And in the next 2 weeks, you got another fresh load and you ate all that. You would probably find that while the meat would be more expensive initially, if you didn't waste any, you'd actually be ahead.
Sure.
Yeah. Not even waste all the other shit you eat. Yep. It's always unhealthy people who are like, I can't afford to eat all this like grass-fed, grass-finished, organic shit, but they're eating out, they're going to McDonald's, they're having like potato chips, all this shit. Like, cut all that stuff out.
Because we have gotten into that
whole foods.
Quick, fast, and lazy. That's how the chicken industry started, is because we wanted chicken nuggets. And, you know, it went into fast food and it blew production up. Before, chicken actually used to be like a kind of like a special meal. Like people that only had money and stuff could afford chickens. And now it's the cheapest, you know, one of the cheaper meats that you can get. Sometimes, of course, anything nowadays is nothing's cheap. But it's just insane to watch the prices. But that's the battle I fight with this kind of stuff.
But so, I also do think that there's a consumer like myself, or I mean, and granted, I'm super blessed, but like I would pay anything to make sure that what I was putting in my body was the right thing to put into my body.
There's a lot of people that have switched to that. And there's people that probably are cutting dimes
to
that
do
are
that.
still making the decision.
I totally
because
agree.
they decided that, you know what, health is what's going to, you can have all the money in the world. When you're dead, you can't take any of it with you.
No, you're right.
And from the fire service, I can tell you this point blank. I have lost tons of guys from cancer and all the effects of the job. It doesn't matter how much our retirement or pension is. You can't take it with you if you're dead. So this is one of the most important things. If you're going to build your foundation, and you would be the prime example of this, if you're going to build the foundation, wouldn't you high quality inputs in? I mean, you wouldn't feed a racehorse McDonald's and then go try to win the Kentucky Derby.
No. I mean, it's so cool to see, like, I mean, I hate to bring him, well, not bring him up. I don't hate to bring him up, but like Liver King kind of brought in this whole like liver and organ meat, right? Yeah. Like that's who made it pretty popular.
Yeah.
You can knock him all you want, but he did. He brought it all to market.
As crazy as it was, he started the conversation.
No, I think, did he go crazy with it? Yeah, for sure.
I'm not eating no testicles.
But it worked, right? It's popular everywhere. And now you have, like we were talking about the other day, like these primal blends or whatever you call them. And it's ground beef mixed with all of those other things that have proven in research to help and be great for you. You know, like adding a little bit of liver, adding a little bit of heart, adding a little bit of kidney into that ground beef and using it, and it tastes good that way. You know, the problem if you're eating it raw and biting into the side of it is a different story. But I think it's cool that he did bring that up and bring that to light and educate people on, you know, how important all these other things are. And really, I think if you cut through all of his bullshit, his message is to just eat better quality food.
Exactly. And that's,
you know,
I mean, he does go a little overboard, but he started the ball turning. And I'll tell you what, now people are looking into their seed oils. They're realizing that, hey, maybe butter, lard, tallow, that's the biggest thing. Your great grandmother probably only cooked with lard.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I grew up on a farm when I was little, and we used to use all of this stuff. My dad used to take a cow straight to the slaughterhouse. We used to drop them off, you know, same with our chickens. We would drop our chickens off. We would have the eggs. I would go get them in the morning. But as I got into the fitness industry, I got into more of like the 0 calorie. And I can tell you right now, I've never been in better shape, and I've never felt better because, and I'm eating a ton of fat, you know, and I'm eating these things that I thought when I was in the fitness industry were going to make me like morbidly obese.
Exactly.
And I am staying away from a lot of like starches and things like that. And I'm eating more just, you know, natural like it's been really cool to see myself transition, you know, and I love it. Like, dude, that sausage that you make, I could eat it for days. Yeah. It's insane. What is it? Maple blueberry sausage?
Yeah, the maple blueberry breakfast sausage is on another level.
Dude, it's so good.
And I mean, you see the raw milk movement now. People are literally getting in, you know, searching out.
They sell it at Sprouts.
We pay $13 a gallon.
Really?
They just started selling it at Sprouts, and it says not for human consumption, but it's raw milk.
You can give it to your animals.
Yeah. It's funny that all the best food has to be labeled for not for human consumption. Yeah. But yet the Twinkies and Ho-Hos and everything else are perfectly fine. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. With that raw milk straight from the cow. I mean, when I grew up, I actually worked on a dairy farm, the same dairy farm that my father did. I would get sent to Pennsylvania for the summer to work on that dairy farm. And I used to drink it right out of the bulk tank. Yeah. Not even clean, not anything. Just straight out of the bulk tank. And it's a different color because it's raw as raw can be. Yeah. But it was the best tasting stuff you ever had. But I honestly think that kind of thing, you know, that kind of childhood and raising is the reason why we went all through COVID. I never got it. And I worked at the fire service. I was next to people on a daily basis. I didn't wear a mask. I didn't do all that crap. I didn't get it because my body learned a long time ago that it started to build its immunity to things. You know, we went the natural way. My parents didn't slather me in alcohol wipes. And,
yeah, me either.
You know,
I didn't get all the vaccines
all that
or
stuff.
anything.
My wife's talking now. She's like, when we have the baby, we're not washing her for 2 weeks. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, all that juice and all that stuff on her builds her immune system for a while. You can like wipe her down with a wet towel, but like, I'm like, really? I'm like, all right, sure.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, I have two little farm girls, and hey, they're a little feral. I mean, they run around, but we don't go chase them around. Oh, you know, if they're out there playing with the chickens when they come in, we'll be like, wash your hands before you eat dinner. But I'm not going to lie to you. They've eaten stuff without washing their hands, but it's not going to kill them at all.
Yeah.
You probably don't use like Dove soap or anything.
A little bit of dirt and stuff like that. It is what it is. And we actually make our own soap from beef tallow. So
did your children get a lot of ear infections or sick when they were young?
I've never, maybe
everyone you hear about now.
Very rare occasion, but that was when we actually had them in daycare initially, and now they're out. They're homeschooled, and my wife's home full time. They don't get anything. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. You'd think running around messing with all this dirty stuff that the world has deemed dirty, chickens, cows, horse manure, all the stuff that they're around 24/7, that something would happen? No. Nope. Run around like crazy, energy, and we've cut out a lot of things, food dyes, things like that. You start to realize one thing and you open the book and, man, it's just you feel kind of almost let down, like you've been lied to for years by our government, by everybody.
So was your wife in the fire department as well with you?
Yeah, she was a professional firefighter as well.
And then she quit before you to
start. She resigned and retired early actually, and she was right on the verge of retirement. She only had a few more years, and she had a full pension, the whole deal. But I was so passionate about this, and we knew that there was a passion and a drive for this that we took the risk. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's been nights where I sit up and wonder how things are going to happen, but you know what? Sometimes you just kind of just leave it to the man upstairs, and the next morning we'd wake up, there'd be orders. And I was like, all right, well, we're paying the bills for next week, and we used to laugh all the time. Money come in, money would go out. Money would go out, money would go out, and you're like, when's it going to stop? And then money would come in. But, if you feel strong enough about something, you just go all in.
Agreed.
And that's what we've done. Yeah. And now hopefully I will be the next to leave the fire service because while I love the job, I love the career, it's not what it used to be. But at some point in time, you realize that your life expectancy is cut short by that, and there's some things that are more important to you, family and other things. But now I get to play a different role in people's lives. I don't get to save you after you've already messed up numerous times. I now might help prevent your CHF, your heart attack in the middle of the night, your obesity problem, your diabetes. Yeah. Now I can maybe help start you on a different path. So it's just kind of a different direction.
Explain then, I guess, started with chickens. You went to beef after that.
We went to beef.
So the operation now, what does it look like? What are all the things that you offer? Because I think that what's cool is how involved your wife is in it too, and all the things that she does. Yep. Because that's Sammy, by the way, loves that stuff. She literally told me this morning. She's like, it's incredible. But I think that's a whole different market. The dog treats, all of that stuff, dog food. Explain how this animal that you're using, you're not just taking the beef off of it and throwing the rest of it away, but you're utilizing every piece of it.
So a lot of people think, well, how can you kill that animal that you've raised, and that's so, vile and everything else. We treat the animal, and I've told my little girls this, because at first we kind of kept the girls away from the chicken processing and things like that, because my one girl she's going to be a vet. She wants to be a vet. She's literally Dr. Doolittle. She can go anywhere, and she finds an animal, and that animal will eventually be her pet, and she just works with anything. And I thought, oh boy, this could be traumatic.
Yeah.
But we got to the point where she realized, hey, look, we get to treat those animals the best we can for their life here on earth. We take care of them, we feed them, we water them. Those animals eat before she does. She feeds her horse before she eats breakfast, and that horse gets fed before she eats dinner. That's the rule. If that horse isn't fed, you're not eating, because she has to learn that responsibility. Sure. But we treat those animals with respect, and when they're harvested, the respectful thing to do is to use every bit of it. So we started realizing, okay, well, if we're going to bring this animal in, everyone loves a steak, but then what are you going to do with the rest of the cow? That's not what cows are made of. It's just not all steak cuts. We can't have, T-bones throughout the entire cow, and then that's it. So we started utilizing literally every last piece that we got back. Our tallow, or what is basically kidney suet, and the fat off the cow is then rendered down into tallow.
And how do you do that? Your wife does that, right?
Yep, she does it batch by batch by hand. So it's a slow process of wet rendering it, basically to take the impurities out, or any impurities that are in, which are very little. But there may be scraps of meat attached to the fat from the butcher shop. So all that gets rendered out. You take the crackling and stuff out of that. You render it 3 times. It comes almost crystal clear yellow, perfectly pure. And then we whip that into a moisturizer, which goes on your skin, and that's mixed with avocado oil to give you that whipped light texture. Then she takes the outside of the kidney suet. So the kidney suet is like the purest fat on that animal, and it comes right around the kidney, and there's only so much of it. Then the rest of it we can use for soaps. So she'll make a soap that is all natural. It contains essential oils, no fragrance oils, anything like that, because there's a big thing with fragrance oils right now.
Yep.
So we have our whip moisturizer, our soap, and then she'll actually make even cooking lard or cooking tallow.
Yep.
And then we make lard from our hogs. So when we get pig fat back, same process, but we use that mostly for cooking. And a lot of people that make pies and things of that nature, that lard is supposed to be the absolute best for pie crust. So we utilize every part of that animal. Then when we get things back like liver, heart, kidney, we haven't blended them into our ground beef yet. We're going to move to that. But initially we sliced them up, we freeze dried them, and we made pet treats. So now you have single source, single ingredient pet treats that contain all the nutrition, because when you freeze dry something, it stays at 96, 97% of original nutrition. You don't lose anything as when you would smoke it or dehydrate it or cook it. So we started that, and we utilized every last piece. Our chickens, when we process the chickens, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, those get saved, those get freeze dried, made into dog treats. Chicken necks, chicken backs, anything that we could save. She also makes bone broth. Now that's just for us at the house right now, but there's an avenue to go into that later, where you can actually produce bone broth in mass quantity and freeze dry it and sell it to people, and they can reconstitute it at home.
Is that kind of like the cubes that you do for like chicken broth?
You could do cubes. You could do a pouch of it, liquid pouch frozen, and just sell it frozen. It thaws out and you put it in. But a lot of these people got big on the Dana White. When he did the water fast thing. Well, what did he drink in between those 2 days? I think it was day 2 and 3 or whatever. Bone broth.
Yeah,
it's highly nutrient dense and it's good for you.
Yeah,
and we have seen a ton of people now. We have people coming to us just wanting chicken necks, chicken feet, so that they can make chicken stock.
Sure.
They're going back to the old methods. When great-grandmas used to can everything, they used to make their own broth. They didn't buy all that stuff. They used every last piece of the animal. So that's kind of what we've gone to, and it's allowed her an outlet, believe it or not, from being in the fire service. There is a lot of PTSD and things that it's allowed her an outlet to be creative, to start utilizing things and to, and explore a whole new world of learning talents that have been left behind.
Yeah. So no, I find it super fascinating. I think when I met you, I learned more about you first. And then when you sent the package to my house, which is the one we'll open now, for Chris, but the other things in there were I was very impressed with, because it's cool to see that. It's cool to see that you're using all of it. And a lot of women, I think, especially women nowadays, are definitely more concerned because of all the hormonal issues that they go through with what they're putting on their body, what they're putting in their body, and the soaps and the fragrances and the oils and the lotion. So it was really cool to see that.
I mean, look how many people are having fertility issues and stuff. And it's incredible. And you're like, this didn't all used to be this way. No. I mean, we're all a little bit younger to remember way back, but I can guarantee it. I mean, and so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take it back to the way God intended. You just raise the cattle the way he intended. Eat grass, be open, be out in the pasture, and take it back to that. And I think there's some exciting things. There's a huge push for knowing exactly where your meat came from. Agreed. And hearing our story. And you're tied to me now. You know how we raise it. You know what you're supporting a family. You can see every box is, when Chris opens it, there's a postcard of us in there. Yep. You know exactly who your money's going to.
Yep.
It's not a Big Four. It's not a multinational conglomeration that could care less about you.
Yeah.
We care.
Yeah.
I know every order that goes out and every customer. And I've reached out to every single one of them in Instagram.
Yeah.
I got guys sending me messages. Man, best beef ever. I'm a customer for life. I got a guy in Texas. Meat capital of the world. I mean, I don't think he has a hard time finding steak. He only buys stuff from me now.
Yeah, I think it's unique too, because I think that in any essence of a brand, I think people buy into the person, right?
They do.
Think we talked about it on a podcast not too long ago, where it's what makes us different than any other supplement company. And full transparency, it's all the same shit.
Yep.
You know, and in this instance, it's not, right? But in our situation, there are things that we do that are different, but it's pretty all relatively the same. And people are investing in us and our beliefs and our vision and, you know, what we stand for as a company. And I think it's awesome to see that that's kind of like the same truth with everything, right? Like I bought from you because I support you and I want to see your family do well, and the story and understanding how much you care about it. Because I don't believe, in my honest opinion, there's that many people who give as much of a shit as you do about what you're putting out into the world, right? Like every little piece of it. I watch all your stories on Instagram, and you're very passionate about what you do, but you're also very passionate about letting people know, even if you don't buy this from me, like know what to look for.
Exactly.
You know, it's like educate them in essence to where even if you don't, because I also believe that educating someone is the best form of getting them to buy into whatever you're doing, right? And if you educate someone enough, they're gonna be like, fuck, you know, I'm just gonna support this guy. This guy comes on here, he tells me all the things that I need to know, and he's, you know, fully transparent. And I think that that's something that, you know, is very unique about you. And I think it's awesome.
I mean, I'm a first gen. I didn't have any land handed to me. I didn't have cattle handed to me, anything. And to leave what we are leaving it's a pretty, I get a paycheck. Yeah. There's always going to be dumb people. We're always going to need the fire service. So, you know, I get a paycheck regardless. But to leave all that behind to go into this as a first gen, I mean, you look at, we used to have, just crazy numbers. 70% of America's farmland is going to be switching hands in the next 20 years, and 60% of those operations do not have a successor. There's nobody in line to get it. And that's scary. To me,
that means it's going to get
not
sold.
Only are we getting into this, but I have a chance to preserve this for future generations.
Yeah.
I have a chance to prevent my kids, your great-grandkids from eating lab meat by starting an operation and trying my damnedest to keep it alive. And it's a struggle. I mean, the average U.S. farm debt's $1.3 million. Everything would say run like hell from agriculture. And I worked in it all throughout high school and college. And I used to always joke the easiest way to be a millionaire farming is to start with about $6 million, because you might be left with $1 million by the time you're done. But
it's true.
I think there's a push now. And I think it's time that if we're open and honest about it, consumers are going to come. They're spending money, and people really feel connected. And I don't care if they don't spend it with me. I just want you to get every last penny worth of your dollar and exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Don't be bullshitted. That's
if I'm being honest though, like the pricing on your website isn't far off from the shit you get at the grocery store.
No, the problem is you have to be at least able to look at a steak and realize that an 1.5 inch cut, like we cut them, is a lot bigger than what you're buying in the grocery store.
Sure.
And while you got 3 in a grocery store for the price of the one, my weight still outweighs theirs.
Of course.
But a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh my God, I'd never pay that. And then I'm like, well, what do you pay at the store? Oh yeah, I guess I'm paying damn near that.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, would you rather know where it came from?
Yeah.
Or you want to keep buying
And there's
there?
one cow in that ground beef and not 90.
Exactly. That all comes from one single steer, and I can trace it right back to every one of them.
I feel like it's such perfect timing too, because my wife, again, going back to her, but she's the one who got me all into this really. And when she got really sick, she has so many people reaching out to her now and being like, what did you do to get better? What did you do to get better? All this stuff. And she's like, you either go the route of taking drugs and feeling worse, or at least suspending the pain for a little bit until it gets worse, or you find a cause. And like you said, how God intended it to be, it's just eating natural foods, like stress as well, but also like going back to just the roots of the proper way of eating. There's no secret to what she does. We've had raw milk in our fridge forever. We have random white boxes of like frozen liver in there. I'm like, where the fuck are you finding this? And it's hard to find. Like she searches for like people like you.
It's like an underground railroad network. You have to find
it's almost like a black market.
It's almost like the black market.
Am I going to get like a tracker in this package? Someone would be like, you can't buy milk, motherfucker. And I'm like, oh shit. But it's hard to find. And I think it's such an important to get the message out, but also to provide people with what you're doing, because it's hard to do. And I mean, I have an autoimmune disease as well. And I used to get really sick when I was young. And when I was living in college, I was drinking, I was eating calf food, fast food, all this shit. And then now I'm a bodybuilder. I put a lot of stress on my body, but I'm eating as organic as possible, trying to find the best grass-fed, grass-finished food I can in the best stores I can, ordering some meat from my wife and everything. And it's not perfect, but it's better. And I haven't been sick now in 5 years. But I got sick twice when I was younger and should have been healthier. But now I'm getting better, and I'm putting my body through more physical stress. But what I'm putting in it is a lot better for me. And I mean, doing this stuff now is even better than that. So it's crazy how much health problems we have now and how fucked up people are. And I'm reading that breath book. I'm reading about breathing. It's funny looking at you too. It's a compliment, I promise. But it's talking about how our generation is getting collapsed small noses and small jaws because of the way we eat and nutrient deficiencies and not eating soft foods. And you look at like an attractive male who's like eating well and strong, the big strong jaw from eating properly, beef and meat and everything, a nose that can actually breathe and everything. And then everyone's now getting sick, all these nasal infections. They can't breathe through their nose. Everyone's breathing through their mouth. Their jaws are small. Their teeth are all fucked up and they're sick. And I mean, I think like 99% of it comes back to food. And you can't even find good food.
I mean, my dad's a doctor, family practice sports medicine guy, and we didn't go into that because he said managed healthcare got to the point where he couldn't treat a patient one time. They wanted them to keep coming back. And Dad said that wasn't the point of it. Initially, we started in this to, if you had an emergent situation, we took care of it, and that was it. Now they want you to be on, oh, well, no, put them on these pills and keep them there longer and do this. He didn't want all that. Like, he really legitimately became a doctor to help people.
Yeah.
And then he didn't want to see you again. The object was for you not to be in the office.
Yeah.
But managed healthcare and insurances and all this stuff, it was insane. And that's why I all four of us, I have 4 brothers, we all steered away from the medical line.
I used to, when I was, before I was going to go to med school, I had to do hours in the emergency room. And I worked at Florida Hospital in Celebration, the Disney one.
Okay, yep.
And I was there, and I used to work with a couple docs. And one was military doc, and there were 2 that I got along with, like 3 really well. And I used to have to do all their charting. So I would basically follow them and just write all the shit down that they, before it was, I worked for Scribes. I was a scribe. And it was crazy because some of the doctors, right, they would have a list in their pocket because they got paid by patient. It was Florida Emergency Physicians at the time, is who I worked for. And they had like a little thing, and they would tally up how many people they saw, and they wouldn't leave until they hit that amount because they knew how much they were going to get paid. And then the military doctor was the total opposite. Like when I worked with him, he would order the least amount of tests. He would order, the least amount of scans, the least amount of urinalysis. And he'd be like, that's, and I would ask, I'd be like, hey, like we usually do this, 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 and this. And he'd be like, we don't need any of that. It's bullshit. Like they're just trying to run up the bill. And they eventually fired him. They fired him because he wasn't running up the bills high enough for the insurance company.
During the joke, the last 3 years joke.
Yeah.
My dad actually got told not to prescribe ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah. I mean, we were prescribing it at the clinics for some patients, and they were like not fulfilling it at the pharmacies. So we had to go to select pharmacies that would fulfill the drugs.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That you have a guy that's, went to school for this and has done it for years. I mean, he's been a doctor now for 40 years almost now, and still doing it, and tell him that he can't prescribe the drugs that he knows is working for what is happening.
Yeah, same thing happened to us.
He only lost 1 patient out of his whole practice.
Yeah.
To the last 3-year deal.
Yeah.
And that was just, I know that you say certain things, you get blocked. So I'm trying to prevent you guys from getting beep. Yeah.
We can always bleep it out after.
But definitely, man, you ought to open that up and check it out and see what we got, and we can go through kind of what we have there. It's a little obnoxious sized box.
It's a little big and heavy. But
you're a fairly big guy, so I figured.
So this is how every box gets shipped.
Every box gets shipped, with a special liner. And
they're upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, they're here?
Oh, yeah, they're
Is
here.
your wife here, too?
They're playing with Todd, the pocket bully.
Courtney's going to love these dog treats.
Yep.
Poppy's going to love them, but...
So we
literally have this...
We have chicken, liver, and heart for our dog treats. And then that's our pork sausage. So we raise 100% Berkshire pork. They're not raised in confinement or on concrete. They're raised out in grass and on pastures.
That stuff's awesome. I cook with that now.
That's our cooking tallow there.
It's a motherfucker to get out of there, just to be honest.
Yep.
I put some deer tallow.
If you just leave it on the counter, we have keep refrigerated on there just obviously for reasons.
Sure.
But if you leave it on the counter, it's shelf stable and you can...
I put the spoon right through
That's the blueberry maple that everybody fights over.
Beef or...
No, that's Berkshire pork.
That's pork too?
Isn't it crazy that pork's actually red when you raise it right? It's nuts, isn't it? So our Berkshire pork, some of our pork chops are as red as our ribeyes.
No way.
Nuts. Yeah.
Dude, the steaks are unbelievable.
Yeah, you can unwrap one of those if you want, and they can...
That box too, the black box right there, is the tallow, the lotion, and the soap.
It's a serious cut of meat.
That's just a sirloin there. I mean, that's a...
I have to fire up the trigger.
Yep.
Smoke this up.
And I think the other one in there, the other real big one is We got you a T-bone, a nice size T-bone there.
Yeah, you can tell by the shape.
But you can tell that's not a small cut. That's 1.86 pounds for one steak.
1.86.
So
the fact that you knew that is crazy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
This is something I've literally been searching for, so I'm glad we're stocked up now.
Yeah,
I'm reorganizing my entire garage just to have a proper freezer and fridge in there.
Yep.
We'll link the website and the social media to the podcast too, so you guys can take a look at, like, it's sold out right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are sold out, and that's one of the downsides of being a small producer. We're gonna hopefully get a little bit bigger here, but that's the thing. You're getting single source. Yeah. I'm not gonna raise 20,000 cows plus because I only have so much land. Yeah. So, and that's the biggest issue. I could buy 10 acres, slam them all in a pen, and raise a hell of a lot more. But it's not what I want to do. Yeah. So I'm shooting for the quality over quantity, and you're going to have to pay attention to when we restock, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll like throw some things out there to let you guys know. But
like a sneaker drop.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Well, drop culture is popular now, so this should probably go well.
Yeah. People want exclusivity.
No, it's I appreciate you coming on, man. It's very unique because this is something that I really didn't know a lot about, and I grew up in it. So just understanding the differences and what is special about this meat versus other meats, and the importance of really just knowing where the fuck your food comes from. Yep. It's been really cool to watch you do your thing, and I think that people will definitely benefit from the information that you gave.
Absolutely, and just dig and do research. That's it.
I was gonna say, is there anything? Like, is everything put on packaging now bullshit and you have to do your own research and find the source to figure out if it's good? Or is there anything that consumers can look for to help them find quality stuff other than the Diamond Beer?
I mean, I wish I could say that, everything, but even your certified organics and this, that, and the other, if you want to be 100% sure, trace it to where it came from.
Sure.
Find out where the farm is that came from. And if you just do a little bit of digging, even on Instagram, you don't have to do a lot. You can find so many operations now that are just like me that grow everything, vegetables, produce, all organic, 100%, and are very transparent and open. And there's a lot of great small farms that are doing this, and they're popping up all over because people are realizing that, wait a second, we can do this right. It's not huge operations. You're not going to find a Bird's Eye or somebody big packaging this kind of stuff, but it's literally small operations. They're going to local farmers markets, but even then you almost have to be careful. We went to one when we first got into this and thought, okay, well, maybe we'll sell it this, and Sarah went and she said the guy literally said he went to Georgia, picked up all the produce and drove it back, and then he sells it. Well, you think that guy grew it. He could have gotten it from a commercial operation that did it however they wanted to do. And, not knocking anybody in specific, but
you don't know.
You almost have to just find out exactly where it's coming from. Yeah. And there's so much now on Instagram and people wanting to be open and honest that you have options. You just have to search them out.
I think that especially now too, I think people are just more drawn to the smaller, operations of anything. Like, people are going back to that local.
We need to get back to the community and start building our communities again. Yeah. And buy from the guy next door. You're supporting him, and then he finds out that you do something in business and he supports you. I mean, same exact thing. I've followed you from way back since before all this was started, and just to watch your motivation and drive for something. Well, that motivates me to, if I'm going to get supplements, where am I going to buy?
Sure.
So I go to Raw to get stuff.
Sure.
And that's it's one of those things you feel like connected to that person. You want to help support them. You want to see them win, and it goes hand in hand. So
I think that's couldn't agree more.
I think that's what we need to move back to. You'd see a better America if we got back to that small community feel.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, they're making it real hard for that.
Yeah, we are. But
that's what we fight for.
There's some of us out there still pushing the line. So.
That's it. Yeah. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you guys.
I think we're going to go out to the farm now and check it out. So
yeah,
see the real deal.
We'll have some video for you guys.
Good deal. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.